Hello, Torn Tuesday. Sorry I couldn't tune in person, but as you can see, I am off gallivanting in my ancestral home of the Scottish Highlands. And so I wanted to share with you all that, like Justin and Green Dragon, I was invited by Amazon with a lot of other lovely Tolkien creators to go on this amazing adventure and trip that I very much cherish, because getting to connect with other Tolkien fans from far and wide is the best part for me. We also saw some footage. Now, before I saw the footage, I'd seen the teaser trailer, and I was a little underwhelmed in terms of I'm always looking for story. And we didn't get much narrative in that trailer. I mean, obviously we had a voiceover, but I mean narrative in terms of we don't have a sense of where we're going or what the tone of the show is. Excuse me. It's very windy, so I'm all dry. However, after seeing some footage, I am much more... I am definitely more interested. What I saw didn't knock my socks off by any means, but the footage we saw was not contiguous. It was disjointed. And as such, again, I'm looking for narrative. So it's I'm oh no, wait, I have so many questions. What just came before that? What just came after that? So, but I am definitely really looking forward to seeing the first episode. I am optimistic. And after hearing from the showrunners themselves, they are the biggest freaking Tolkien nerds, and I say that lovingly, and I think they would take that lovingly. They could talk about this stuff and pull quotes out of memory left, right, and center, not just from the source material, but from anything Tolkien ever wrote, which way above my level of being enmeshed in Tolkien's mind. So I really admire them for that, and I felt reassured, and I think most of us there felt reassured. It was less about what we saw and way more about learning more about the people who were trying to steer this massive ship. And I think I speak for most of us, that we feeling like, oh my gosh, these people are our people. They are one of us. And if, if they are allowed to continue with their creative vision, it's going to be something, fairly spectacular. It sounded like Middle Earth, and it looked like Middle Earth. Yeah, it was all a little oddly different because it is Middle Earth in the Second Age. So it's a version of Middle Earth that's wilder and less ordered. Those are just kind of my impressions from the teeny little bit that I saw. I haven't seen much. So I'm looking forward to getting to watch the first episode, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. So I'm about to go look at my family's graveyard, which I know sounds really depressing, but I will leave you now, and as I go commune with my ancestors, and I wish you all a very fond farewell. Namarie.
Well, all right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm still muted. Oh, the lights are about to come up. Allow me. Main host?
Main host? Nope. Start show.
There you go, and that brings the lights up.
That brings the lights up.
Hello.
Do you like that little fancy?
That's very fancy and lovely. And hello, Keely, our wonderful, wonderful Hobbit lass from Happy Hobbit, co-author of Middle Earth, From Script to Screen.
That is a heavy book.
I can't even pick it up. This book is huge.
I know. I just looked it up on Amazon. It's $280.
Whoa, this is amazing. amazing. This is such a volume.
Kelly Rice, under her pen name KM Rice,
Yes.
co-authored that with Daniel Falconer and
Extraordinary.
forward by Peter Jackson. It's an extraordinary tome. That is just one of the many wonderful, exciting Tolkien fans, professionals, TikTokers, YouTubers, PhDs that were invited by Amazon to London to see some things. And I've got some people here that were there. Let's see. Let's hope this works. Let's bring them in. Is everybody there?
I see the camera is doing something interesting.
Yeah. All right. Let's see this. Let's see this work. And boom. All right. Hi, everybody. We are joined live via
There we
Zoom.
go. That worked.
Kirsten Cairns is a senior staff member of the OneRing.net and has been leading the charge for a lot of things behind the scenes and front of house. And we've also got Corey Olson, the Tolkien professor and bona fide star. Like you were signing autographs like the first day we got there. And we've got Tea with Tolkien here. And we might be joined by a couple other influencers and people that were in London. But hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
It is just really great to have the three of you join us. I am obviously going to be the very avid listener because I'm going to be listening to all these great stories and anecdotes that you guys can tell me about your experiences there in Oxford.
Or we can't tell you.
Or you cannot. Well, no, of course you can tell me at least how beautiful, how extraordinary Oxford in the late spring really is. Let's start there.
Let's start with Tea with Tolkien. What was your... We had a pretty sunny day, didn't we?
Yeah, it was actually really surprising because for our trip, the forecast for that day was like rainy the whole day. And so I brought my rain jacket, I brought my umbrella, and didn't need any of it. It was perfect outside. So it was beautiful. Everything was in bloom, and it was just like an amazing day to be outside.
I'm told that's not normal either here. And then we've just joined by New Betta Do Betta, one of my favorite TikTokers and the lore expert that just made our 6-hour trailer live stream even better. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing, guys? How you doing?
So Cliff was
Hey, wow, it's great to have you here. It's so great to have you here. I'm looking at two cameras at once. This is such a pleasure. You were going to ask Justin?
Thank you so much.
I mean, you guys, seriously, raise your hand out of all of you and tell me, I know Kirsten has been there, but raise your hand if it's the first time you've ever been to the British Isles and come that close to Professor Tolkien's home on Northmore Road. Raise your hand if it's the first time you've been there.
Okay.
See, okay, delicious. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, really exciting to go there, isn't it?
Yeah, it was absolutely super exciting. It was a real honor, a pleasure to be able to witness, where he went to school, where he wrote the books, where he taught. It was just a surreal experience.
Now, Corey, what? It's funny. In this group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, only two people raised their hand that they'd never been there. I feel like the group of Tolkien fans that were assembled had already seen and done and been to all the things that they wanted to show us. And did you feel like did you kind of shrug at all of it, or was it?
No, not at all. First of all, it was. I mean, it was. The day was. Well, first of all, there were a lot. I'd been to Oxford before, but several of the places that we went into, I had like barely been able to like peek in the corner of a window to see.
Okay.
There were a bunch of rooms that we got to enter and sit in or eat lunch or tea in that I certainly was never able to enter as a tourist on previous visits. So that was definitely very cool. But no, I mean, first of all, it is always fun going to Oxford. I mean, it's always a really cool experience. Just like walking on the street and seeing the Burden baby always gives me chills. It's just so great. But I have to tell you, it was really fun with how many people had never been there before. I was really just enjoying seeing like the reactions of people who had never seen it before. And that was pretty cool also.
Indeed.
Cliff, you'll like this. Someone in the chat room, Vista Vision or Viasta Vision says, why didn't Clifford go? Justin's great, but no offense, Justin's a bit easy to please. I'm not
that's
easy
funny.
to please.
I was going to say, Justin, easy to please, that is not a phrase that would spring to my mind if someone asked me to describe you.
Okay, so my reputation kind of precedes me a little bit. I don't feel I was easy to please.
Nope.
But it was amazing for me.
And the short answer to the question is that the United States Passport Department, sent all my paperwork back to me and my passport way too late. In fact, I get the information that it's actually coming to me in another week. So it's a little bit too late. It's a week too late. What the heck? Whatever. But that's no one's fault but my own. I mean, last November I should have renewed it. But it's so lovely to have the eyes and ears of all of these different people from different quadrants of our online Tolkien community coming together as friends to break bread together and to talk and share their ideas and their enthusiasms. I can just imagine that for most of you who were present there, that might have been the spirit of fellowship that made it all worthwhile. Is that not true?
Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it really was. I mean, I don't know if this was necessarily the first plan, of the Amazon folks. That, like, my favorite part would have been the time that we got spending together and getting to know each other better. But that was huge. I thought that was it was awesome. I mean, I definitely felt that, when we left, we definitely have formed a sort of fellowship, and it was, and getting to know people across all different platforms too. I didn't have any insight into the who got invited and who didn't get invited, but it was a really it was a really interesting list of people from all over the place, and it was great to meet folks that I'd never interacted with before.
That fellowship element to it was not a surprise to me at all, because it's one of the things that I have loved most about the OneRing.net. In the more years that I care to admit that I've been involved with the website, the happenings, the moots, the events, the real life friends that I have made who've become some of the most important people in my life, that's been a huge part of the fandom for me. And so I expected nothing less. I knew that was a likelihood that we would forge new friendships and new alliances. But of course, you never quite know when you're going into a group. And what was interesting to me is, I think every time in the past that I've been at a big Tolkien fandom event, it's been a OneRing.net event. So it was really cool to be at an event with a bunch of people who were not to do with the One Ring, who were completely different areas of the Tolkien fandom. And I kind of loved that, because it was a different take on things. And so it was different but the same. A different take, a different group of people. Some people I already knew, some people I didn't know but was really excited to get to meet, and some people I didn't know anything about at all. And it had this different feel because it was a variety and a mix of people. But in the end, the feeling of fellowship was exactly the same as what I've always encountered in this fandom, and is one of the greatest things about this fandom, in spite of what some people on the interwebs might be trying to say these days. The community and the supportive camaraderie of this fandom is one of the best things about it.
It really felt supportive there. And to answer Monica in the chat room, yes, Matt from Nerd of the Rings is there. So I guess we should get him on at some point in the future. He just posted a 30-minute video.
His video is great.
And Matt's awesome. It was an honor to meet him. That was one of the things I was actually most excited about, being able to meet all of those big Lord of the Rings content creators, Matt being one of them. You know what I'm saying? You guys being there was like a big surprise, and I was like, wow, this is really crazy. Everybody's in person. This is really just it's above and beyond. And like I said, everybody got along. Everybody was sharing ideas. Everybody didn't agree on everything, but it was done respectfully. And then you saw why somebody had a certain idea or why they thought of this, and it was done so respectfully that it can be talked about in just such a nice manner that, you know, a lot of people on the interwebs, as she says, or the internet, are thinking like some of these reactions and some of these things are forced or fake. No, literally, the vibe is so good, and you know the feelings were so good. It's not fake. You can't believe it. You can't quantify it in your brain. But guess what? You weren't there. We were there. So I know the feeling I was getting from when I genuinely met you. I literally got a good vibe. You were positive. You were excited to meet me, who I didn't even know you knew like that, and it was amazing. And when you give out good feelings, you get good feelings back. What the energy you put out is what you get back in the world. And people on the internet don't realize that a lot of times. And all they want to do is be negative, negative, negative. But you're looking for negativity. That's all you're doing. You know what I'm saying? If you look for that, you can find it anywhere. You can find negativity in anything if you look hard enough. So it's funny that you said that, because that's what I see what's going on, and I'm somebody who's going to address it. I'm not going to stand for none of the nonsense. So you got me up here. I'm ready to talk about it. So whatever you want to do, let's go.
Yeah.
I just want to say, guys, I see the gents from Tolkien Talk have said hi in the chat. Hi, Tolkien Talk, guys in Brazil. It was so great meeting you guys.
Sergio and Cesar, it was awesome meeting the two of them.
Brilliant.
I was shocked that Sean Gunner, the head of the Tolkien Society, was there. He's a very opinionated man, and I think everybody can go back and read some of his opinions on how the show has been coming together up till now. But so that was my big surprise. T with Tolkien, was there anybody in this group that you were like, oh my gosh, I know you?
Yeah, there were like 5 or 6 people that I was super excited that there weren't a lot of people that I recognized, because I'm mostly on Twitter and most people's profile pictures aren't of their faces. So I was like going around being like, hi, I don't think I've met you. I'm Caitlin. And then like having to figure out, oh my gosh, you're this person that I've followed for forever. Like that was crazy. And it was really cool. But like, I feel like definitely Corey, I've like read, you know, so much that he's written and listened to all his podcasts and stuff. So when I saw him there, I was like, oh my gosh, like I got a little like starstruck. But I had kind of an idea of who I thought would be there when I was like going through, like, obviously if I got invited, people who are kind of doing similar stuff to me would probably be there. So I thought that was it was really awesome.
And also Marcel was there, and the guys from
Yes.
Prancing Pony Podcast were there, who I just had personally I had a delightful interview with them just a week ago. But my goodness, I do feel like this is exciting to see that you all got a chance to not only, you know, take a little trip around London and be in the heart of all the energy there in London, but to be away from London and get to the areas of Oxford. Did you get to go to 20 Northmore Road? Did you get that tour to go past the house?
We did not, actually. There were 2 places that I would have loved to add to our itinerary that day that we didn't get to. That was one, and the grave was the other. We didn't go to the grave either.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
and
I was
Wolvercote.
sad we didn't get to do
Yeah,
that,
we
but I
didn't go
also
there either.
understood.
Yeah.
Those are also further away. We'd have had to get
Yeah.
we getting off and on and off of buses all afternoon. So.
I was shocked that
And
the
there was-
Eagle and Child was out of business. They were closed up, dirt on the windows. It did not survive the pandemic. Of course, that was to one of Tolkien's favorite pubs, but not his only pub, was it, Kirsten?
Right.
Right, no, that's right. But actually, I don't think the Eagle and Child, from what I've read, they are actually doing a refurb like the Lamb and Flag is, but they're doing a more extensive. I think it's changed hands, and I don't know how much of the original pub will remain in place. So I don't think it's closed for good. I was reading up about it recently because the last time I was in Oxford, it was open, but then I haven't been during the pandemic, so.
Yeah, that was actually the most like shocking thing. It was like the only negative shock I got in the whole weekend was I hadn't heard that the Eagle and Child was closed. But yeah, if you look at people who have taken videos, if you look at Matt's video or some of the TikTok videos, they did like drive-bys of the Eagle and Child, and you can see it from across the street. If you look closely, you'll see a little white square, a little piece of paper on the door, and that little piece of paper says closed until further notice. It's very sad.
Yeah, well, the chat room is alive and active with many people that were there. We'll have you on the show soon enough. It's just managing 20 people on the Zoom and doing a broadcast gets a little crazy, as most of us know. Of course, Corey knows because he streams all the time. So there was a question in the chat room that just came out. Like, of course, everybody's going to be positive because they won't be invited to the next thing if they're negative. And I want to clear that up and say there was no instruction. And in fact, I was actually surprised the whole week that there was no instruction. There's not even instruction like where to go. It was kind of just flowed, and it looked like there was a schedule, but we never got it. I mean, what do you guys think? Like, did you guys? I didn't get any instruction or anything. Like, it was just kind of say what you're gonna say. Like,
it's like a conspiracy theory. It sounds good until it's proven wrong. Like, it sounds good to say, "Oh, you guys are all positive, so you must have been paid off or whatever." But it actually would make no sense to make a fake video or fake a reaction, because the blowback from when the series comes out and then it's actually not good would be far greater than anything now, because you can't prove anything now. You could just say, this is how I feel, but feelings aren't facts. So the fact is that we weren't coached in any way, shape, or form. Nobody even told me anything. They just said, hey, say what you want to say, whatever you feel about the video. And they literally did not care. That's not why they brought us there. They brought us there because they recognize us as people that people trust in the Tolkien society, and as far as like, videos and lore, and we have good followings, we have good knowledge on the situation. This is why people trust us. This is why we have the followings that we do. So it would make sense for them to invite us there and say, hey, listen, we want to show you guys, who people care about, that we did our due diligence and we care about this project and we did it right. So when we see the footage and we're like, wow, you actually did do it right, and we have good reviews about it, that's just exactly what it is. None of us got paid off. None of that. It's literally just, it's like a slap in the face, but like I said, it's just nonsense. Like, it's nonsense. If it was bad, I would say it's bad. My favorite book in the world is The Hobbit. My favorite book in the world is The Hobbit. Guess what movie I cannot stand? The Hobbit. I cannot stand it. I hate it. I absolutely think it's the worst thing ever, and I can hardly watch it. But everybody, if you follow me, I love The Hobbit. It's my favorite book. I'm not gonna lie, because where's that gonna get me? You know what I'm saying? Pay for what? I went to London. Whoop-de-doo. I didn't get a Lamborghini or what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
what did I get out of it?
I agree with you. That's a fantastic way to wrap. That's exactly right. And I would go further to say, someone that is complaining that that's not how access media works. They'll monitor everything you say afterwards, and if you say anything negative, you won't get invited back again. Well, you know what? That's bloody well right. If they make a really bad TV show and I write negative reviews, because I'll be honest about them, and I would do that if that were the case, I wouldn't want to be invited back. I wouldn't want to be access media. I wouldn't want to be invited back if it's a crappy show. Gosh. Anyways. Silly.
I can say, speaking personally, a trip to London, not very exciting. I mean, that's where I grew up. So for me, it's like, oh, yay, I can go and see London again. So why would I be persuaded by an opportunity to spend time in London, where I spend a lot of the year anyway? But that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really matter whether I personally am persuaded by gifts from Amazon. We all know our own integrity. I know that I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to be swayed. Yeah, I had a great time. It was great. I enjoyed it. Fab. If Amazon want to invite me back to the next event, great. I'll have another great time. But I'm never going to say anything that I don't believe. And
exactly.
The most I would be prepared to do, if I felt obligated in any way, which I actually don't, to Amazon, frankly, they don't need my voice. They can afford my bad opinion if I have a bad opinion. But if I felt obligated to someone, the most I might do is just avoid saying negative things. I would just be silent.
What?
So for all of us to actually be speaking out positively, we all know our own integrity. I know that I wouldn't lie. I know that you guys wouldn't lie. But the people out there on the internet don't know us. And if they want to think we don't have integrity and that we would lie, that's up to them. I have to be honest, I don't really care one way or the other. I know I'm speaking the truth. When the show comes out, they'll know I was speaking the truth. Now, that's not to say that I know that everything about the show is going to be fantastic. I don't.
We don't.
But I know that I'm
Exactly.
very encouraged by what I've seen thus far.
Exactly. We're just speaking off the knowledge of the footage we saw.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the other thing I would add to that, and I was just talking about this in my show a couple hours back. The thing that I think people totally underestimate. I'm a bad liar. Like, I'm not an actor. Okay. So like, it doesn't matter how much they paid me. I would not be able to pull off lying about it. Like, you'd be able to tell. Anyone who's listened to me at all would immediately be able to tell that I didn't really mean it if I were, saying something fake. And that's, I don't know. Honestly, that whole idea is it reminds me of a lot of government conspiracy theories, right? Most of which I disbelieve, not because I think the government wouldn't do it, but because I don't believe they're competent enough to pull it off, right? Similarly, like, there's no way that all of the whole group of us would all effectively pull the wool over the eyes of all of our listeners, right? I mean, and nor would, the Amazon marketing people be dumb enough to try to make that happen, right? So the whole thing is pretty silly.
Have any of you heard the Wheel of Time reference? Because that's when I've been getting a lot.
Which one?
So they're like, oh, they did the same thing with the Wheel of Time. And because the Wheel of Time, people said it was good and it's bad. And Amazon made Wheel of Time, so the Lord of the Rings is gonna suck. So, and I'm like, what? That's not how that works. It's like, people don't understand. So I try to break everything down to people that I feel like can't comprehend things. I break them down into analogies. So we're going to use this as an analogy, right? So big bad Amazon. If you have a problem with Amazon, just say, hey, I don't like the company Amazon, right? But then you got to realize that Amazon is the company, and the people that do the shows are showrunners that are hired by Amazon. So they are just kind of affiliated, and they're controlling the show, right? So we'll use an analogy, right? We'll use Amazon as like David Stern, like in charge of the NBA, right? So we'll say Amazon is like the NBA or David Stern, right? So we have the Knicks, the New York Knicks, who are coached by whoever, right? And they suck, they're trash, they're garbage, right? You can't by then say, because the Knicks, who are coached by somebody completely different, even though they're in the NBA along with the Golden State Warriors, that the Golden State Warriors are then going to suck by proxy because the Knicks suck. And when they have a completely different coach, they're all in the NBA, but literally they're two different players.
Yeah.
The show people that made the Wheel of Time are not the same people that made the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So like, literally you can go in and look, and there's 50 comments that say that, and it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
just make it make sense, people.
I will.
By the
I
way,
will add a little.
That analogy really shows you're from New York. By the way, I just
Yeah.
I will add a little correction there. One of the Wheel of Time directors is directing a few episodes of Lord of the Rings, so there is some cross-pollination. But this is its own thing. Taylor in the chat room says, "I recognize Tea with Tolkien from Instagram." So you got some fans here.
Yay.
I wanted to ask you specifically, why do you think Amazon chose this type of event to debut this?
I think the main reason is that they really wanted to impress us. Honestly, I feel like they recognize that they need Tolkien fans. And so they went looking on the internet for Tolkien fans that have maybe like a bigger following or like an influence in some way. And they thought, influencer marketing is kind of the way things are going. So let's, take a bunch of people, give them a super, super nice trip. I'm not totally sure why they brought us to Oxford. I do think it was really cool because it did put us in the right mindset.
because
yeah, it was really it was like they didn't have to do that. They could have just did the second day where we just saw the footage, and like that would have been kind of what I expected. So the fact that they were like, let's bring him to Oxford, I just feel like it put us all in the right frame of mind. It gave a lot of people who hadn't been to Oxford like some context. And like I've been to Oxford before, but I didn't get quite as much of a tour as I did the first time. So it was just really cool to hear like our tour guide being like, oh, and this such and such site was special for this reason, you know? So I feel like they were just like, we really want to impress these people. We really want to show them how dedicated that we are by pulling out all the stops and by putting them in the right frame of mind. And then the second day when we had the showing and everything, that seemed more of like something that would be usual. I've never been to like a film thing like this before, but that seemed kind of more like normal. But it was just like overall, it's just like a really cool experience, I guess.
What one thing from the whole week increased your hype level on this show? Was there something specific that you can call it and say, you know what, now I'm in?
I still wouldn't say that I'm in though. I don't know. I'm still nervous about it. But I guess for me, I think when we were hearing from the showrunners and they dropped references to certain letters and we were like they knew what number the letters were in the book, stuff like that. I was like, okay, I think you guys
passages of commentary from volume 11 of the History of Middle Earth. Yeah.
I was like, all right, so maybe you guys do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they were extremely knowledgeable, and it wasn't rehearsed or memorized. You can tell the difference. You can tell the difference when somebody just is like, oh, let me take this, so they think I know they knew what they were talking about extensively, and it wasn't even that. That's impressive in its own. But their excitement, they were like kids in a candy shop. Like they were chomping at the bit to be like, yeah, let's talk about this. Let's have this back and forth. What do you have concerns with? Boom, 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 boom. And it was like really impressive. And it's like, yo, it's like me talking to, the Tolkien professor. I know he's extremely knowledgeable, so I can have a conversation with a level of detail that supersedes a lot of people, and it gets really exciting. And I literally, every time I talk to this man, I can't stop smiling, and I just like, wow, this is so fun, exciting. I can't do this with everyone, and this is a different level. They had me on that type of level, on that type of time. So I trust what their process is, because they're thinking about the things I'm thinking about. Commentary that I saw in the footage shows they're on another level with their thinking as far as, okay, what would this character do in this situation? I can't go into great detail, but it's there. This is what we saw. This is what made us say, okay, I can put my fears to rest. So that's why we're so excited.
So you really do feel a little less anxious now after seeing this footage.
Absolutely. I didn't know what to do. I said I was going to be optimistic just because I like Lord of the Rings. I wanted to be good.
Right.
I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure from the 1 minute of footage we saw. But I said once that happened, I was completely, I felt at ease.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Was it better than the trailer at the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Absolutely. There was no context in the trailer at the Super Bowl. To be honest, it wasn't a great trailer in that sense.
Okay.
It was kind of just to tease you, but there was no context behind anything. We saw context behind things. That's why we're telling you, hey, this is actually probably going to be pretty good. That when you're thinking about the trailer and everybody's using that for context, there's no context there. You just saw micro clips of things. You have no idea what's going on, why it's there. The second age is already vague enough, so it really doesn't lend well to its purpose, kind of.
Right.
Yeah. Kirsten, was there anything that stood out to you that got your hype level up, or is it even up?
Yes. I do want to answer the question, but I just want to say something about the marketing, if I may, just briefly, because I noticed a question in the chat or a comment in the chat where somebody said they wondered if Amazon's marketing was more of a problem than the actual content now. And Caitlin T with Tolkien was talking before about this approach to marketing. I don't begin to understand exactly why and what Amazon are doing. I do think they are pretty confident about their product now, because I'm sure they would not have invited this varied group of people, many of whom have actually been pretty skeptical in various ways. Many of us are still, cautiously skeptical, but more optimistic. They wouldn't have risked inviting us all and showing us this footage, which somebody said it was the first 20 minutes. It was a bunch of different stuff. It was not the first 20 minutes of an episode. There's been things that have happened that we haven't been able to talk about that happened last year in terms of Amazon reaching out, mystery things, where there it was much more, I felt that they were wanting to see what reactions might be like because they wanted to see if they were going in the right direction. Now they're showing finished footage, so they're confident, and if it wasn't good, too late. They've done the music, they've done the VFX, there's nothing they can do about it. So I think they're at a stage now where they're pretty confident. We have a good product now, we're showing to people. That being the case, I don't understand why they're not being a bit more open about letting everybody see more of the footage. I can't wait till they will let us talk more specifically about what we've seen. And then we can actually tell you, like Justin, you said to me, what one thing makes you more excited. I can't tell you because we're not allowed to yet. Now, we didn't sign NDAs in terms of obliging us to say anything in particular, but we did sign embargo agreements that we would not reveal content, whatever, until embargo is lifted. So, in answer to your first question to me just now, I am maybe a little more optimistic, although frankly I was already pretty optimistic. I just don't believe people go into this kind of production intending to half-ass it. I think even if they're only in it for money, they still want to do it well because that's how you make money.
That's how you make more.
I always felt that the chances are that there would be people who really, I knew it would be enormously competitive to get to be the showrunners, and therefore whoever got the job pitched a good idea. So I was always optimistic, but you wonder what their passion for Tolkien will be. And like everyone has said who went, the thing that most tipped the scales was the dedication and passion of those showrunners talking to us. That was like, oh, these are people who deeply care. And when Patrick said that he had been a long time, full-time, as he put it to me, lurker at the OneRing.net back in the day when PJ's Lord of the Rings trilogy was coming out, I was like, okay, all right, maybe that's me being bribed, but I was thrilled to hear him say that. So that really did make me think, okay, these guys are part of our tribe.
You've said
Nice.
You're edging on what we're allowed to talk about. Corey, let's get a pulse. What was your level of excitement or interest on a scale of 1 to 10? Where were you at 2 weeks ago?
Oh, I'm not sure I can say necessarily on a 1 to 10, but what I will say, I was in a full. I always think the best, right? I mean, like it's awesome until proven otherwise. Mostly because I want to enjoy the next 4 months of my life, right? Why should I ruin it by thinking the worst for 6 months, waiting to be proved wrong? It's a miserable way to live. Who wants to live like that? I'd rather, in my head, until I've seen it, in my head, it's the best thing ever, right? And so that's where I'm going to live for the next, so that's how I've always been, right? The change, therefore, was not a question of I wasn't excited and now I am excited. The difference for me has been, before it was kind of in the void. I was giving the benefit of the doubt, right? I was willing to wait and see and say, well, I'm gonna hope that it's good until it's proven otherwise. Now I have much more confidence. You were asking about anxiety. I feel no anxiety anymore at all. Now that doesn't mean that I'm 100% convinced it's going to be awesome. It could still fail in various ways. Maybe the story is not going to come together. I was talking with Maggie Park, who was there also. She and I were doing
Dr. Maggie Park.
Dr. Maggie Park this afternoon. This afternoon, she made a really good analogy that I thought is very appropriate. She said, look, you can know, it's one thing to know that you've got awesome cooks in the kitchen, right? You've got the best ingredients and you've got great cooks. That doesn't mean for a fact that the cake is going to be great when it comes out. Stuff happens, right? Maybe it doesn't come together. Maybe, maybe this story, it's possible that their vision doesn't come across, right? Maybe they're going to fail to convey what they're trying to convey. So I don't know that it's going to be awesome. However, I'm not anxious. I'm not like the grounds for anxiety, like real worry and anxiety, were all these things about like, do we really know? Like, do these people get it? Right? Is this going to end up being some kind of like, is this going to be just political platforming? Is this just going to be, these people who are just kind of going through the motions and trying to make, to follow in the footsteps of Game of Thrones by slapping together something that looks like Game of Thrones? I mean, like, these are the kinds of anxieties that people had.
Right.
I have no anxieties about any of these things. I trust these guys. I trust these guys as much as any, like, a creative Tolkien creative team I've ever met or known. I have a better feeling about them and their understanding of the text and passion for the text, even than I had, with the Peter Jackson team. I'm not trying to slight the Peter Jackson team. I'm saying for me, it's even above that bar. That's how I feel about it. So I'm not worried. Like, again, maybe it won't be good. I believe in their vision. After meeting them and hearing from them, I trust that their vision for this show is really good, is really respectful of Tolkien, is really not only steeped in a knowledge, like a superficial knowledge of Tolkien, but they get Tolkien. Their answers to questions were really, really good. Like, I got to tell you, my favorite question that was asked in our Q&A session, somebody, I think it was Alan Sisto from the Prancing Pony, said, what are some of the themes that you think are most important for the show? And they immediately were connecting it back to Tolkien themes. And I can't tell you the list of themes that they actually said, but I will tell you that as he immediately rattled off with analysis 4 or 5 themes, and all the way through, I was just like, yes, okay, wow, yes. I mean, like, they got it. They absolutely got it. They completely nailed it in a way that, again, made me say, it's not just that they know Tolkien, but they get it. They really get it. And I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. That answer was so far beyond my hopes and expectations of what they would say in response.
Right on. Now that is intriguing. That's very intriguing to hear you say that.
Is it intriguing? Because I want your reaction. What Corey just said about the showrunners. How does that make you feel? I mean,
that makes me feel like I would like to sit down and have a meal with these guys and just talk for a couple hours and dig into their brains. And I know it might be strange, but just to sit with a human being and have some open listening is one of the biggest and most transformative things that anyone can do as a gift to give to another human being. And I would like to be very silent and very quiet and just listen to JD and Patrick explain some of the passion and the ideas and the ambitions and some of the weird challenges that they have in front of them. I'd like to just hear it from their point of view. And I must also admit, Corey and everybody else here who's with us, I'm kind of a little envious that you got to talk to them. It was great. I'm sure it was great. But gosh, I wish I'd been there to ask, or just to listen. I wish I'd been there to listen.
That was the thing. And seriously, like, if I had gotten off the plane, had that experience with the showrunners, and then gotten back on the plane, I'd feel exactly the same way as I didn't need the footage. The footage was like way down my list of I liked it. I'm not saying I didn't like it.
Okay.
I'm just saying, as far as like impactful to me, meeting the showrunners was something like somewhere between 100 and 1,000 times more impactful in influencing my feeling about the show.
I want to get T with Tolkien's. Let me set it up with. Did you get the vibe that those guys, those showrunners, are just two of us?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, they did seem very immersed in Tolkien's works, and they did seem very intent on doing them justice. Like, I don't doubt that their goal is to faithfully adapt the Second Age. Whether or not that's going to be successfully executed, like, I really won't know until it is I'm actually watching the show. So I'm still nervous about it, and I think I'll probably be nervous about it until like the series finale ends and the whole thing is done, and then I can be like, okay, we made it through. Now I can like take a breath, just because like I do feel like I'm going to be on edge for the next 5 years or however long this is going to go on for.
Do you think they can hang with? Go ahead.
I feel like because everyone was just like chatting with them, like I feel like speaking the same language. Like everyone knew their Tolkien, and everyone was just going back and forth. Like when there were certain questions that I was like, someone would ask a question, and I would be like, oh, like there's no way they know the answer to this, and then they did. So I thought that was really cool, and it was very reassuring to know that they definitely do seem to care, and they do seem really passionate about Tolkien.
Do you think they can hang with Stephen Colbert?
Ooh, that would be really fun to see them do like a trivia.
I'm sure they will. I mean, that's got to be coming down the line. I'm sure they will be on Colbert's show, and I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, but can they go toe to toe with him on the trivia and the knowledge?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't forget, these guys have clearly been like eating and breathing nothing but Tolkien stuff for 5 years.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was like
maybe.
the immediate familiarity of all of this stuff in their minds was very, very clear. It'd be pretty hard to compete with them, I think, right now.
Yeah.
So new beta.
Hey,
Let's. Whoop, wrong question. Wrong camera. So everybody in the chat room, there's a lot of questions or a lot of comments about, man, marketing this show has kind of missed the ball, and I somewhat agree. Up to now, yeah. I think this is a good first step. So the question to you is, what do you think Amazon should do next? Now that we've had this thing, now that we've provided feedback to the public, knowing what you know and how you met them, what do you think Amazon should do next?
So I can agree with that 100%. I think that maybe the marketing so far has been a little deceptive or unclear, and so I can't blame people for being a little questioning that and not having a full scope of what's going on, and that can be made clear by Amazon. It's their job to do that. So my hope is that they do a more extensive trailer, just a more extensive, better trailer with context, just like I was saying before, and then people's fears can be alleviated. They can see certain things without giving away too much, to where they could be like, okay, now I know the story's going in this direction, at least here, or I don't have to worry about this being a problem. In my mind, I thought this was going to be nonsensical, but it actually makes sense. Things like that. And you can do that with a good trailer. So that's Amazon's job. That's in Amazon's hands. So they're going to have to fix that themselves. But I do understand people's problem with the first wave of marketing in that sense. So I agree with that.
That is interesting that you say, like, your first reaction is put the footage in front of people, show them the show. Kirsten, the One Ring, partnered with Warner Brothers way back when for the Hobbit fan event, where 50 fans from around the world were flown to New Zealand. Warner Brothers did all these Hobbit fan events where they would have live streaming Q&As inside a theater plus a thing. So there's definitely ways to do things, right? What do you think Amazon should do next for marketing the show and get really on track?
Yeah, I mean, like New Better just said, I think it's really important to let everybody see some more footage. It's all very well to have us keep saying, we loved it, it was great, but that's just taking our word for it, and people have a right to be curious and to make their own opinions. And I don't know, they obviously have a game plan, and I'm not in marketing and PR, but I don't really understand at this point. Like I said before, they obviously have a product now that they feel pretty proud of because they were prepared to show it to us, and rightly so, they deserve to be proud of it. So I think surely sometime soon they've got to let more people know more. Now, I understand the need for some secrecy. Early on, you've got that whole, we might need to change our minds, right? This happens a lot in movie making, in television making. You're going one way, it doesn't work. And anytime that it is known, like a casting change because this person isn't working out, people make a huge deal out of it, that why was this change happening? And so I can understand a studio saying, look, we'd rather keep things close to our chest whilst we're developing, so that if we have to make changes, it's not such a big deal because people don't know about what was happening originally. But now that they've got a lot of season 1 done, basically, from what I can tell, then surely the time is to start showing people things. Now, there are still things they're going to be secretive about, because even though clearly they have a whole show of all the seasons in mind, there are bound to be some things that change, as not massive things, I wouldn't think, but there are bound to be some things that change. So I can see that they're going to say, we're going to keep this close to our chest, but there must be things that they now feel the wider public can see. I think they need to let people see footage. And on a personal point of view, I am dying to share more of the stuff that I've seen and heard, and I know we all feel like this, that is really compelling, that I know people are just itching to know about, and that we're not allowed to say yet. I really hope that very soon they allow us to back up our sort of nebulous claims of it's great with some reasons why we think it's great.
We're not going to leak it to Fellowship of Fans either, but it was great to hear. But before I go to Tea with Tolkien, I've got breaking news for you guys, folks. John Howe has commented on the show. I've got a sneak peek of Empire Magazine summer preview issue, which will be out in the next few days, maybe. John Howe says, "This isn't the Middle Earth you remember. This is a world that's very vibrant. The elves are not hidden away in Mirkwood or lingering in Rivendell. They're busy constructing kingdoms. The dwarven kingdom of Moria is not an abandoned mine, and the Grey Havens is not yet an abandoned city." I loved having the opportunity to explore that unseen history.
Okay, wow.
John Howe goes on, "We're finally sailing on the oceans of Middle Earth. We're finally sailing on the oceans of Middle Earth. They're daunting and enterprising and are almost colonizing the world. They were a lot of fun to imagine. It's something neither Lord of the Rings or Hobbit movies went anywhere near."
Those comments are promising a set of seafaring elves. Fascinating.
Tell you what, Tolkien, you just heard John Howe's comments. Does that affect your hype level?
I'm gonna have to go in a second because I got a little baby crying, but yeah, he's ready for bed. I saw that article earlier today, and I don't know. I feel like I'm probably at like a 6 out of 10 for the show. Before the event, I was probably at a 4 out of 10. So I'm a little more excited, just still nervous. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna have to wait and see.
Well, it's great to have you on the show.
It is.
Looks like you got your hands full, so we won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey,
We're
yeah.
going to keep
Thanks,
on
guys,
going.
for having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great to have you on. Tea with
Bye.
Tolkien.
Bye.
Bye.
It was nice to see you guys. I'll talk
And
to
you
later.
know, I wanted to just mention this extraordinary singular comment that you made today, and you said this, and I had retweeted it because it kind of very succinctly said everything that I really wanted to say myself. And as soon as I can find it, I'm just going to tell you what it is.
While he's looking for that, Corey.
Here it is. Hold on a second.
Oh, here he is.
I got it. Hold on. Go ahead, Corey. Ask Corey. Yes.
Well, yeah. So, Corey, we just heard from John Howe. There was a lot of questions what his involvement in the show was. Was it limited like Tom Shippey? And did he bail early? Or and then they put him in the credits on IMDb and on the marketing site. So the fact that Empire has an interview with John Howe about the show implies he's got something to say. So, what do you think about that? I know you've been one of the biggest champions about seeing a new vision of Middle Earth with this show and the opportunity that Amazon has to chart a new course. What are your thoughts about John Howe, the Oscar winner from Peter's films, kind of jumping in with this?
Well, I mean, of course, it's hard to object, right? I mean, John's work is awesome and has been, just some of the gold standard for, Tolkien artistic vision for a long time. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to be, is there anybody out there being like, oh wait, John Howe's involved? Oh man, like it's gonna suck now. Like, nobody said nobody ever.
Nobody's
So
saying that.
I think that's gonna be good. But to me, the thing that I think is really cool. So first of all, the one element of that quote that I find really most exciting is when he's talking about the Second Age, and I love the idea of, again, one of the things that I've been struggling against all the way along with people who are nervous and people who are decided they don't like it in advance is a lot of, what I called in my show the Jacksonian knee-jerk effect. That is, I see something, it doesn't look exactly like Peter Jackson's film, and so I immediately hate it, right? And then I rationalize a lore reason why I hate it, right? The short hair is the clearest example of this, right? Like people who say, I'm studying Tolkien's lore and therefore I'm upset that elves have short hair. Baloney, you're making stuff up. Tolkien does not talk about the length of elf hair. It's just not an issue in the text. But I get it. Like people are nervous about things looking different. Like people are really attached to, grew up with, this visual impression of Middle-earth. What I love about that John Howe quote is him talking about, Second Age isn't the Third Age. Things are different in the Third Age. And even though, so even with the same artist going back and thinking through this, he's thinking it through differently. And I love that. Not only that, I'm pretty sure, and I've been pretty sure ever since we saw the maps with all of that lovely white space, around the edges of the maps, I'm pretty sure we're going to see lots of geographic places in Middle-earth that we never saw before, where the Lord of the Rings plot line does not go. And that's awesome too, so I don't mind having, the artistic vision of John Howe helping to serve as a kind of connection. I think it is important to have some level of consistency. If the new vision of Middle-earth, we're simply saying we're going to define ourselves from being different from Peter Jackson's world in every possible way, right? If they did it one way, we're going to do it a different way. That would be horrible. That would probably really suck, right? I don't want something just derivative. I don't need just more sequels of exactly the same thing. But it makes a lot of sense to be thinking in connection. And one question that people have asked me about the footage that we saw, did it feel like Middle-earth? Yeah, it did. It did. It felt and sounded like Middle-earth.
Do you agree? New better. Did it look like it should?
Absolutely. From what I saw, I got the feeling of Middle-earth, and I don't say that lightly. I was looking for very specific things, and I saw those things. So this is why I am so excited. I saw those things. We can go back to the text and we can go to the Council of Elrond and things like Elrond alluding to, there was a time where a squirrel can go from a tree to tree from the old forest all the way down to Dunland and
yes.
things like that. That's alluding to, but in the Second Age, things like that. So things are different, but we can't say, hey, Peter Jackson's film Moria should be dark, and no, it's not. And just like John Howe said, it's not that. It's vibrant. It's a place of trade. It's a bunch of different settings. Mithland is going to be vibrant. Aragion is going to be vibrant. Numenor is going to be very vibrant. And then we can't. Also, we got to remember, this isn't the Third Age where the statues are falling into decay and the king's crown is on the ground. No, the Numenorians are at their height in many ways, and they have these structures, and then the elf structures are going to be different. They don't do statues, they don't do those big things, but they also build and they also do wonderful architecture that we didn't see at all in the Lord of the Rings, because that wasn't the case. They were leaving at that time. So we saw these things, and we saw people acting differently than you saw them. Galadriel is at the waning of her life in the third, the Middle Age, and the Middle Earth that we saw in the Lord of the Rings. The third age, she's about to leave. She decides, okay, I passed the test. I can leave. I can diminish and go into the West.
Yes.
She's wearing a gown. She's very much removed from a different role when she was younger, and she was more, just vigorous, and she wanted lands of her own. How do you think she got Lothlorien as her land, and she became the Lady of Lothlorien? And she's, very forward in battle, and whatever the case may have you. We're talked about these things. Her wearing braided hair and, wanting to do, doing activities and things like that. So people seeing her in armor threw them off, but they don't realize this is something Tolkien envisioned, and it's actually something he wrote down. So we have to keep these things in mind before we just do a blank.
And change, change isn't always bad. I mean, one night we stayed up, and I know Corey, you're pressed for time, but before we go, I wanted to get with Corey real quick on something, because we stayed up till 3:30 in the morning one night. I think Nubetta, Sean Gunner, the head of the Tolkien Society, a bunch of other people, and we were debating for an hour whether Boromir dropping the sword when he says it's still sharp ruined the character from the book. And I mean, that's what geeks do, right? Like we love that. But there was something specific, Corey. There was one tweet that got a lot of attention from me yesterday on the Twitters, that implying that we didn't like the movies. We love Peter Jackson's movies, but there were certain decisions made on certain characters, and you brought it to my attention. I don't know if we can get too specific because it's too close to NDAs. But
oh dear.
There were some characterization choices that you explained to me that, although they're good for the movie, they're different from the book. And what you saw here is more closely aligned to the book.
So, I mean, look, as so far as we can tell from what we've seen, but yeah, it's there are definitely a few moments. And again, like, to say within the context of The Lord of the Rings are great movies, and as movies, they totally worked. But there are a bunch of places which still, no matter how many times I see the movie, they make me twitch, right? They make me twitch because, not just because it's different, not because they've made a change, but because I can't help but feel like that would not happen. There's a and I agree, Boromir dropping the sword, like, as if Boromir of Gondor would just chuck the shards of Narsil on the ground and walk away.
Would never happen.
Never happen. Would never happen.
Respectful.
Absolutely, that would never happen. Nor would Aragorn ever decapitate a spokesman coming out to parley outside the gates. I don't care how ugly he is. Aragorn, I mean, that was shocking. I was shocked by that. I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of it's kind of, but no way, absolutely no way. That was appalling that happened.
And
not
no worse than Sam being turned away by Frodo and being sent back home. That is one of the worst.
Forget it. Absolutely. And then there's the Witch King blowing up Gandalf's staff. I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? So there's still these moments where there is no justification for people behaving that way.
And you can go.
I didn't even see what any of those four things added to the film.
Right, and you can go to YouTube. You can go to corners of the internet and our message boards. There are tons of people that explain everything wrong with Lord of the Rings. Everything different from the books, I should say.
Yes.
But the point I was making on that tweet thread that got a lot of attention, Corey, is that you told me that what you saw, without getting into specifics, was more closely aligned to how you pictured characters in the book.
Yes. Yeah. No, there are some of the decisions that I'm really liking. I'm really liking some of the things that they're doing. I mean, from what I've seen.
Okay.
And having learned more, I like it better.
Kirsten, do you have the same opinion? Are you seeing things that were like, okay, I like that?
Does that mean you're asking?
Either one of you, yeah.
Yes. I would say my only kind of continuing concern is that we just don't know what the scripts are going to be like, really. We've seen little bits, and I have been impressed with the scripts in the little bits. I've enjoyed them. But in terms of how the whole plot is going to work, we know that's a very difficult task, that they have to stitch together a cohesive plot from the snippets of the Second Age that we have from the appendices, from mentions in the text of Lord of the Rings itself, maybe snippets drawn out of The Hobbit, and I saw a question in the chat before about the rights. This isn't from what happened last week, but we know this. It's been said by Amazon before. It's been said several times. They only have the rights to what is in the Lord of the Rings, including the appendices, and what is in The Hobbit. That's it.
That's it.
So they cannot use stories from outside of that, right? So they're stitching something together out of what is actually very rich. There's a lot in the appendices, but it's sketched outlines. And so they're having to fill in the blanks, join the dots. And whether they will do that entirely successfully or not,
that's the question.
Certainly won't do it exactly as I would have done it, but who cares? It's not my version of the story. So I'm sure when it comes to characterization, script details, there'll probably be one or two actors that I think are not very successful in their roles. They're usually in a big show with a lot of great characters. There are one or two people that you think, oh, that wasn't great casting. Same for me with Game of Thrones. Most people I thought were incredible. One or two I was like, oh, that wasn't very well cast. So for sure there will be some things like that. And for me, the question mark is how much will be like that and how much will I love? So with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, as Corey was just talking about, there are things that make me go, ugh, and roll my eyes or whatever. But that's like, I don't know, 10% and 90% of the movies I love. If they get a balance like that in Rings of Power, then that will be awesome.
Yeah, and we just haven't seen it. Well, it's been great talking with you guys. Thanks to Tea with Tolkien, New Better Do Better, the Corey professor, the Tolkien professor, Corey Olsen, Kirsten, and a big shout out to Kirsten for organizing a torn moot for all these influencers outside of Amazon's sneaky eyeballs. And I think that was just a great reason for everybody to get together. One footnote.
One has to be a torn moot, always. Wherever we go, we have torn
Wherever we go, we have to throw a party.
Indeed. Well, there's one additional thought. Tea with Tolkien had crystallized exactly my thoughts into one single tweet. And isn't it amazing that you could actually crystallize a lot of confusing thoughts and put it in one simple thing? She said, "It has become very plain to me that Amazon knows the importance of earning the trust and approval of Tolkien's most devoted fans. Without the approval of the Tolkien estate, the show won't be made, and without the approval of the Tolkien fans and scholars, the show won't succeed." And I think they do know this. And
that's a recognition of what they just did.
Yeah, that is a recognition of what they did, but it's also like they're starting to understand who they're playing with in the sandbox. And it is encouraging to me that they do want to come into the sandbox and play with us now. In fact, overall, that is encouraging, especially she hits the point that without the Tolkien estate giving approval, it's never happening at all. And without us, the fans, giving the other receiving end of approval after the series is broadcast, then it won't be a success at all. So those two components put all the power back into the hands of the fans, and it puts power back into the hands of the Tolkien estate. And that also is a comforting angle. That's another angle that makes me feel better about it.
That is a comforting thought. Before we let you go, several of our new friends are in the chat room. We're going to bring you onto the show in the coming weeks. I want to hear from everybody from Brazil. And England is tough because it's like 2 a.m. there. So Sean Gunner, if you're willing to stay awake, I'll get you on in a couple weeks. But next week, I can't bring anyone else on because I landed, and you know who called me? Mark Ordesky, the executive producer of Lord of the Rings, the Oscar winner. He's got a new show on Disney Plus that drops tonight called The Quest. And he's going to come next week.
Oh, that's
and
exciting.
We're going to talk about the quest, building fantasy shows.
Nice.
He's got more stories from Middle Earth that he hasn't told anybody.
Wow.
So next week, we're just going to catch up with Mark Ordesky because that's what the One Ring is. Like, we're in London. We're talking about Rings of Power. We're back to Lord of the Rings.
Talking about 22 years ago. It's wild. Here we are.
It's just wild.
We're in the past and the present at the same time. The time jumping, I hope it doesn't confuse you. But what a wonderful audience. And thanks to all of the faithful people who come to join us on all these multiple streaming platforms. Thank you for making Torn Tuesday such a great show. But my tip of the hat, especially my tip of the hat to all of these guests. You are the most lovely people. And I can't wait to sit down and talk with all three of you and everyone else about what I missed and how exciting it was to just be there in the room, like that Peter Sellers film, Being There, Absolutely, it's fantastic.
You're old, man.
I'm dating myself, obviously, but here we go, guys. You guys are just fantastic, and thanks again. Corey, go have a great show tonight. Go and knock him out, buddy.
All right, and we'll catch you next time. Follow New Better Do Better on TikTok.
Yes.
He's got a new YouTube channel. Get some numbers up there. And Corey's on Twitch at Signum U, Signum.
Signum University.
And I think you're going to jump over there right now, right?
Yeah, I'm about 45 minutes. We'll start up there.
Yeah.
It's time for Exploring the Lord of the Rings again. We've got another couple sentences to discuss here tonight. So.
Yes.
And Kirsten's going to be as soon as Amazon lets us, Kirsten's going to be posting more things.
Oh, yes.
I haven't even told you because she hasn't told me.
Okay.
We're all sharing in little secrets.
More things that nobody knows about.
Well,
that's exciting.
This is exciting. Thank you.
Honor, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Torn Tuesday is live every Tuesday at Scum and Villainy Cantina here in Hollywood. Hope to see you soon at a moot, at an event, at a viewing party. We have more Rings of Power. We got War of the Rohirrim coming up. There's so much to talk about. And maybe we'll get more John Howe info this week.
Boy, that would be cool.
Empire.
That'd be great.
Cliff, I missed you.
I missed
and
you
thanks
too.
for holding down the fort.
Well, allow me to say thank you for getting out of my hair. Here you go, this shiny bald head. But thank you for getting out of my hair for a week so I could talk about board games. That was awesome. Thanks. And to the audience, we'll see you next Tuesday right here on theonering.net at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Here again for Torn Tuesday. Until then, I think we've got to say mischief managed.
Mischief managed.
That was a good show. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Until then, we say buenos noches y buena suerte. Good night and good luck.
End show.